Officials from Kiev meet their Russian counterparts hours after President Vladimir Putin put his country's nuclear forces on higher alert. Belarus is reportedly prepared to send troops to support Moscow. South Korea decides to tighten export controls against Moscow. Seoul joins moves to block some Russian banks from the SWIFT international payment system. South Korea will temporarily lift vaccine pass or negative COVID test requirements at select businesses. This is done to ease the strain on testing centers. Hello, hope your week's off to a smooth start. I'm Daniel Che here to bring the latest. Let's begin with our top story. Days into Russia's invasion of the country, plans continue in the Ukrainian capital and other major cities. Talks are underway between delegations from Ukraine and Russia. The meeting is not a summit between the presidents. Our Arirang is standing by on the line for us. Rayon, first, bring us up to speed on what's happening in Kiev.
Well, Daniel, Russian news agency Interfax said on Monday Russian forces seized two small cities in southeastern Ukraine and the area around a nuclear power plant, but ran into stiff resistance elsewhere. Interfax also reported that Ukraine denied that the nuclear plant had fallen into Russian hands. President Zelensky, speaking to the UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, said the current 24-hour period would be crucial. Ukraine's intelligence service reported blasts Monday morning in the Ukrainian capital of Kyiv and the country's second biggest city, Kharkiv. Before then, Kyiv had been quiet for a few hours. Overnight, Russian missiles also struck another northern city, Zhytomyr.
Rayon, at this point, what can you tell us about casualties?
Well, Daniel, the full extent of the casualties in Ukraine is very hard to confirm. The picture of a woman with a bloodied face has become an iconic image of the war in Ukraine. This woman, whose suffering summed up the horror of the conflict, has now died. According to Ukraine's health ministry, as of Sunday, the number of civilian deaths is at least 350, including at least 14 children. It also reported that more than 1,680 people have been wounded. And according to the UN Relief Agency, over 500,000 Ukrainian civilians, mainly women and children, have fled into neighboring countries. The EU said countries must prepare for millions of Ukrainian refugees. But some Ukrainians are returning home from abroad to help defend their country. Poland's border agency said on Sunday that since the conflict began, some 22,000 people have crossed over into Ukraine, like this man.
I woke up and I cried. I talked to my family and I cried. And I just decided to myself that I can't watch that, and I can't just stay in Poland and let Russians destroy our independence, destroy our cities, kill our citizens, kill our children, kill our elderly people. So, summing up all those circumstances, I made a decision to come back to Ukraine and fight.
And also, Ukraine agreed to talk with Russian delegations at the Belarusian border on Monday. What can we expect to come out of these sessions?
Right. So as you said, according to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's office on Sunday, Ukraine and Russian delegations agreed to hold talks on Monday without preconditions at a venue near the Belarusian border. They reportedly started the meeting several hours ago. According to the Ukrainian president's office, Ukraine's goal for the talks was an immediate ceasefire and the withdrawal of Russian forces from Ukraine. These are the first talks since Moscow launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine last week, and come after Russian President Vladimir Putin ordered his country's deterrence forces, including nuclear arms, to be placed on high alert. Meanwhile, after agreeing to talks with Russia, the Ukrainian foreign minister said in a televised speech that his country will not give up a single inch of territory. Take a listen.
It is obvious, I think everyone agrees now after this week, that the goal of Russia is to destroy Ukraine as a state, is to destroy Ukrainians as a nation. But we will not fall. We will not stop or get tired. This is people's war. It's not a war between one state and another. It's a war between President Putin and the people of Ukraine.
That's all I have for now. Back to you, Daniel.
All right, Ryan, thank you for those updates. Moving on, South Korea will try to stop exporting strategic materials to Moscow and exclude Russian banks from the SWIFT banking system in line with international sanctions. The government is discussing further measures. Yoon Jung-min has the latest.
As part of efforts to sanction Russia for its attack on Ukraine, the South Korean government has announced that it will cut off exports to Russia of strategic materials. These reportedly include materials designated as strategic by 4 multilateral export control regimes, including the Nuclear Suppliers Group and the Wassenaar Arrangement. Seoul's Foreign Affairs Ministry said on Monday that it notified the U.S. of the decision through a diplomatic channel. South Korea will also soon decide and announce what it will do with exports to Russia of materials classified as non-strategic, which the U.S. has also decided to restrict. The non-strategic materials include dozens of items such as chips, computers, information and communication devices, sensors and lasers, and goods related to navigation and aerospace. Washington has decided to require foreign companies making tech items with U.S. origin technology or software to seek a license from the U.S. Seoul has been reviewing the possible impact of the rule on Korean companies. Seoul will also join the U.S. move to exclude Russian banks from the main international payment system, SWIFT, to further isolate the Russian economy. With the Russian invasion of Ukraine possibly disrupting global energy supplies, South Korea plans to release more oil reserves to stabilize global energy market and consider reselling liquefied natural gas to European countries. It also plans to increase humanitarian aid to Ukraine through international cooperation. In the meantime, Seoul and Washington are closely coordinating on the crisis in Ukraine. South Korean Defense Minister Ho spoke at the National Assembly on Monday, saying the two allies have held high-level talks about maintaining a robust joint defense posture regarding the situation. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
South Korea will provide emergency humanitarian aid worth $10 million to the Ukrainian government and refugees. The aid will be given through consultations with Ukraine and the international community. Seoul's foreign ministry pledged to actively take part to resolve the humanitarian crisis in that country. The UN Refugee Agency forecasts there to be more than 4 million refugees. Seoul's top diplomat held virtual talks with his Chinese counterpart. Jae-myung condemned Russia's armed invasion of Ukraine, adding that South Korea is joining international sanctions. Wang Yi stressed the importance of abiding by the UN Charter while mentioning the need to respect security concerns of each and every country. He reportedly said Beijing supports diplomatic efforts for a peaceful resolution. Other issues discussed were ways to bring Pyongyang back to negotiations, Japan's controversial UNESCO push for the Sado Island mines, and the release of the Fukushima water. The duo also touched on bolstering Seoul-Beijing relations to mark 3 decades of bilateral ties. North Korea launched what appeared to be a ballistic missile on Sunday. This would be the regime's 8th show of force this year. However, Pyongyang claims it was a test for a recon satellite. Kim Da-mi provides a deeper analysis.
North Korea claimed on Monday that the missile it fired the previous day was a, quote, important test for the development of a reconnaissance satellite. The North Sea media reported the launch helped the National Aerospace Development Administration and the Academy of Defense Science confirm characteristics and working accuracy of a high-definition photographic system, data transmission, and altitude control devices. The test reportedly did this by carrying out a vertical and oblique photography of a specific area on Earth. Based on the report, which included a photo of the Korean peninsula, Pyongyang appears to have installed a reconnaissance camera on the medium-range ballistic missile it fired on Sunday. Reconnaissance satellites are typically launched using long-range ballistic missiles, with the technique almost identical to launching intercontinental ballistic missiles.
The North is talking about long-range ballistic missiles to launch satellites, meaning ICBMs. The move could be a hint that the North is considering lifting its self-imposed moratorium on nuclear and ICBM testing.
Watchers say Sunday's test was intended to put pressure on the U.S. And knowing that Washington has a lot on the table at the moment, the North could also be proceeding with and focusing on its set goals.
Advanced reconnaissance satellites is a key goal and part of the North's plan to develop defence science and weapon systems. And the North is showing that it's working toward the goal as planned.
South Korea's Unification Ministry said Monday that Seoul's military is analyzing Pyongyang's latest test in detail and that the South Korean government will thoroughly prepare for all possibilities in the future. Kim Da-mi, Arirang News.
The South Korean government released a video of testing an LSAM long-range surface-to-air missile and its LAMD, or low-altitude missile defense system. The LSAM is designed to intercept ballistic missiles that fly at an altitude of 50 to 60 kilometers. The LAMD is the Korean version of the Iron Dome, an air defense network that Israel developed to destroy short-range missiles and artillery shells. Last Wednesday, the Agency for Defense Development reportedly succeeded in conducting such tests. On Sunday, Cheongwade officially confirmed the success of the test, something that the top office usually doesn't reveal, citing national security reasons. Some experts believe the move was deemed necessary due to growing public concerns over security issues amid Russia's invasion of Ukraine. South Korea will lift vaccine pass requirements at public venues like restaurants and cafes starting Tuesday. This is to free up medical staff ahead of Omicron's peak, which is expected in early to mid-March. Shin Yeon brings the updates.
Amid the ongoing spread of Omicron, authorities have made a few changes to their virus prevention measures. Starting Tuesday, authorities will lift vaccine passes at most public facilities. In other words, people visiting bars, restaurants, or cafes will no longer have to show proof of vaccination or a negative PCR test to enter. In a briefing on Monday, Interior and Safety Minister Chun Hae-chul said this will free up extra manpower that can be used instead for the care of high-risk patients. Authorities have also decided to overturn their initial decision to expand vaccine passes to teens. They were set on requiring vaccine passes from April for those aged 12 to 18. Also, the mandatory 7-day quarantine period for unvaccinated people living with a person infected with COVID-19 will be lifted from Tuesday as well. Instead, these people are highly recommended to get tested. There's not a lot of people left to be vaccinated in South Korea, as the country has one of the highest vaccination rates in the world. As of Sunday, 86.4% of the population have received their second jabs, and more than 60% have got their third shots. Korea has also been rolling out a fourth vaccine shot since earlier this month. From Monday, it started administering the second booster jab to more of the population, particularly some 1.3 million people over the age of 18 who have an underlying condition or a weak immune system. South Korea on Monday reported 139,626 new infections. In the space of a single week, more than 1 million new cases have been added, bringing the total tally to more than 3 million. Health authorities forecast that on March 9th, the day of South Korea's presidential election, we will see more than 230,000 daily infections. And the number of critically ill patients will go up to the 1,200s, which is roughly double what it is now. They also said Omicron would most likely peak by mid-March, when we could see up to 350,000 daily infections. Shin Yeon, Arirang News.
Ruling Democratic Party's presidential candidate Jae-myung hit the traditional conservative stronghold of Gyeongsangbuk-do province and Daegu. He made sure to appeal to the people of the province while talking about his future plans for the older generation. Kim Do-eun takes us to the scene.
Ruling Democratic Party of Korea's presidential candidate Lee Jae-myung on Monday praised the government's decision to lift the vaccine pass mandate from many public places, and reiterated that if he gets the chance to become president, he will be able to do much more with his presidential transition committee.
By the end of summer, within 100 days, I will have brought people's livelihoods back. With the 100-day program, I will make sure of a return to normalcy and economic recovery.
With just over a week until Election Day and just a matter of days before early voting starts, Lee Jae-myung had 6 cities on his schedule on Monday in the Gyeongsangbuk-do province region, a traditional stronghold for his conservative opposition. While in the city of Daegu, he celebrated the launch of a special planning committee for what's being called the country's southern capital area. He has been emphasizing the need to develop the south of the country further through more autonomous administrative powers.
Balanced growth is not a special favor for a city or a region outside of the capital area anymore, but an unavoidable core policy for a country, isn't it?
One of his other stops included Gumi, the birthplace of former conservative President Park Chung-hee, known for his autocratic rule, but also for leading the country's rapid economic development. Lee Jae-myung claimed that his drive to execute the plans reflects that of the late former President Park Chung-hee and appealed to the crowd by saying that people from this region have that sort of drive in their DNA, as he himself was born not too far from here. He also laid out his plans for the older generation, saying he will be able to create more jobs for senior citizens using his experience as mayor of Seongnam City. He also promised to increase social welfare payments to 400,000 won, or around $330 from the current $250. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, the main opposition People Power Party's Yoon Suk-yeol traveled through Gangwon-do province. The former prosecutor general highlighted security following recent events in North Korea and Ukraine. Lee Young shares with us his remarks.
Yoon Suk-yeol of the main opposition People Power Party headed on Monday to Gangwon-do province, a place where people can perhaps relate to what's happening in Ukraine more than in other parts of the country, as it is located on the border between the two Koreas, which are technically still at war. And even more so due to the latest missile test from the north. Amid a greater sense of instability, Yoon vowed to strengthen security based on his hardline policy, which he says his main rival Democratic Party candidate Lee Jae-myung is unable to do.
North Korea has conducted its 8th missile test so far this year, yet Lee Jae-myung calls it an ordinary occasion. He can't call a provocation a provocation.
In one of the biggest cities in the region, Gangneung, Yoon tried to connect with the residents, calling the city his hometown at heart, being the birthplace of his mother. And pointing to the traditional market right behind him as the place he used to visit to see his grandmother working there.
With just 9 days until Election Day, the voter sentiment here has become more significant to Yoon Suk-yeol, as the once conservative stronghold seems to have become a tussle region, in recent polls showing no clear favorite.
Also, Yoon addressed the DP's recent announcement to push for a constitutional amendment to increase multi-party representations in the government and the parliament.
The DP is proposing that prime ministers be appointed through parliamentary recommendation. They're trying to take the advantage of holding a majority with 180 seats to intervene in cabinet composition.
Yoon is back on the campaign trail following the breakdown on Sunday of the potential merger with People's Party's An Chol-soo. The PPP chairman Lee Jun-seok says he's still optimistic about Yoon's victory, downplaying the impact that the merger could have brought to the race. Young은, Arirang News.
Just as part of his presidential nominee, Kim Sang-jung visited Gangwon-do province, promising a green future for the area. Candidate An Chol-soo from the People's Party campaign in Jeollabuk-do province, pledging to turn the region into a cultural hub. Kim Hyun-sung reports.
A green future for Gangwon-do province. Minor opposition Justice Party candidate Kim Sang-jung upheld this vision during her campaign on Monday, when she traversed the region from Gangneung to Chuncheon City.
I think Gangwon-do's future lies in protecting its green ecosystem and making it into an international tourist attraction as a therapeutic location. Don't you agree?
Kim also pledged to develop the province as a center for renewable energy. In her campaigning speech, Kim also brought the war in Ukraine to highlight the role a president should take on in times of crisis.
What is a president supposed to do? Shouldn't a president stand on the front lines even with their lives at risk when the people and the country are in danger?
Candidate An Chol-soo from the People's Party is working his way across the southwest, a liberal stronghold. On Monday, he's visiting Jeollabuk-do province and Cheonju City, promising to turn the regions into a culture capital.
This president has to take on former President Kim Dae-jung's legacy and create future jobs and foods. I believe I'm the only candidate able to do so.
Candidate An on Monday also reiterated to reporters that a merger with candidate Yoon Suk-yeol is not on the cards right now, as he still has not heard any detailed answers from Yoon about his proposal to join together. With the possibility of forming a conservative bloc fading away, candidate An asserted during his campaign that he's a better alternative to the two major party candidates.
Voting so that your least favorite candidate doesn't win is not democracy. Democracy is choosing and electing the person who is most deserving and who can develop the country.
With just 9 days until the election, minor opposition candidates are crisscrossing the nation, trying to convince voters to break away from two-party politics. Kim Hyun-sung, Arirang News.
Overseas voting for South Korea's presidential election ends on Monday. Some who turned up at the polling booths offered ideas on how the next leader can help the country grow faster, stay safer, and work better. Kim Ji-yeon fills us in.
Monday is the last day that overseas voters for South Korea's 20th presidential election can cast their ballots. According to the nation's election watchdog, some 226,000 South Korean nationals living in 115 countries have registered to vote this time. These are some of the words of advice they offer for the next president.
I hope the next president can execute effective policies that can help boost the power of Korean residents in the U.S. and around the world.
I hope there are policies to help unify society and help revitalize the livelihoods of citizens who have experienced hardships due to the coronavirus.
I hope society becomes fairer, more sensible and principled.
I hope we can proudly say I'm Korean wherever we go around the world by making the Republic of Korea a leading nation.
In 2017, some 294,000 nationals registered to vote, and voter turnout of these overseas voters was recorded at more than 75%. In South Korea on Monday, the National Election Commission began printing ballot papers for the March 9th election. There are over 44 million eligible voters across the country. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
Squid Game has become the first non-English language series to win multiple Screen Actors Guild Awards. It was the 28th edition of the ceremony that recognizes stellar performances from actors in TV shows and films. Song Yoo-jin tells us more.
Squid Game has made history once again by becoming the first non-English language series to win a Screen Actors Guild Award. The Netflix original series won 3 awards in total on Sunday at the 28th annual event, which took place in Santa Monica, California. Starting off the winning streak was Lee Jung-jae, who played the show's protagonist, Ki-hun. Lee was competing with Brian Cox and Jeremy Strong of Succession for outstanding performance by a male actor in a drama series, but won his first individual award from Squid Game.
Thank you so much, SAG Awards. And thank you to the global audience for all your love. And thank you, Squid Game team.
Next up was the series' female lead, Chung Ho-yeon. Nominated alongside Hollywood superstars Jennifer Aniston and Reese Witherspoon, Chung won Outstanding Performance by a female actor in a drama series, but paid tribute to her award rivals.
I dreamed of becoming an actor by watching you guys on TV and on screen.
Lee Jung-jae and Chung Ho-yeon have now become just the second non-English performers to win SAG Acting Awards, following South Korea's Yoon Yo-jung from the film Minari last year. Although Netflix's most-watched series failed to win the award's biggest honor, Outstanding Performance by an Ensemble in a Drama Series, it added a third trophy of the night by winning Outstanding Action Performance by a Stunt Ensemble in a television series. The Squid Game actors and crew will now look ahead to the Emmy Awards in September. Experts believe that the show has a strong chance of taking home an award following its 3-prize haul on Sunday. Song Yoo-jin, Arirang News.
Warm conditions will continue for tomorrow, which is a national holiday here in South Korea. Readings will be close to what we normally see in early spring. However, with the return of the warm air, the finest concentration will also rise. Aside from Gyeongsangbuk-do province, dust levels will stand in the bad category nationwide. Light rain is in the forecast for tomorrow morning, but this won't be enough to alleviate the dryness. Expect about 5 millimeters of rain for most inland regions. For Gangwon-do province, where conditions will be especially cold, there will be some light snow falling. Make sure to have an umbrella handy when heading out. Morning lows will range from 0 to 11 degrees nationwide. Seoul will start up at 5 degrees Celsius. Expect partly cloudy to overcast skies for the daytime. Seoul will get up to 10 degrees, Daejeon 13, and Busan will reach 15 degrees Celsius. Temperatures will stay warm for the time being. For the Seoul metropolitan area, another round of rain is in the forecast on Friday. That's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
And that's all from us. As always, thank you for watching.